Hello, my name is Andrew Marsh and I'm a Senior Licensing Executive in TU Dublin Hothouse, and I'd like to welcome you to our session today, the first session on our series on creating a spin-out company. Just to make you familiar with some of the terminology, a spin-out company is a new company set up to commercialise intellectual property that's generated within the university. The idea behind this series is we want to try and help staff who are interested or thinking about creating a spin-out company. Help them understand if it's something that they should do, and if they are interested in doing it, how they go about doing it. We're going to have sessions like today on your motivations, should you create a spin-out company, and then there'll be a follow-on sessions on how to get funding, how to build out a business plan, how to build out your team. The focus of today's session is very much going to be on the fundamental question, should you actually do this? Should you create a spin-out company? I'll talk first a bit about the motivations of people for creating new companies and what sort of traits we see in entrepreneurs. My colleague Anastasia Negru from Smart Margins will talk a bit about her journey and give you sort of an introduction to the language of startups. I'm delighted to have Aisling Maher along as well, who'll talk about her journey with her company Mooze Vegan. If you have any questions, we'll address them at the end. Just pop them in the chat. And myself or the two founders in the panel will address them, or you can leave your questions and ask them in person at the end. There are two fundamental questions that I want you to think about today. The first one is, do I really want to found a spin-out company? And the second one, am I an entrepreneur or a founder? Is this journey suited to me? On the first question, do you really want to found a spin-out? As an academic, a researcher, a lecturer, a PI, you have a huge degree of autonomy in how you spend your time. You could be writing papers, trying to get funding for PhD students, organising conferences, doing projects with industry. If you go down the route of creating a spin-out, it's going to take a huge amount of time and effort. It's going to involve you learning a lot of skills, doing a lot of commercial work, and you really have to think, is this something that you want to do? And then secondly, you've got to think a bit about, do you have what it takes to create a new spin-out company? Do you have the drive and the ambition to develop out a new venture? Do you have the sort of characteristics that we associate with an entrepreneur? Are you happy dealing with risk and uncertainty? Or are you more comfortable working on more clearly defined projects? So the first question, why found a spin-out? There's a lot of literature on the reasons why people found spin-outs and startup companies, and we have a lot of experience ourselves in the office in talking to different entrepreneurs about their reasons for founding their companies. One of the most common reasons is the opportunity for financial reward. There are many spin-outs from Irish universities that are very successful and allow their founders to create a lot of personal wealth. This comes, of course, with a warning. Most startups do not create great wealth, most fail, but opportunity to create wealth is a big motivating factor for many researchers. For others, they've always had a great business idea, or they've come up with a new technology in the lab that they think could form the basis of a new company. They see that opportunity there and they think to themselves, what if? I really have to just try that out and see if it's going to be successful. For others, there's always been a lifelong desire to be an entrepreneur and to start a company, maybe going back to childhood or their teens. Now they see an opportunity to sort of scratch that itch. For others, it's more about startup culture. Some people are not happy working in large organizations, they're not happy working for others and to other people's agendas. By creating a new company, they give themselves more autonomy and give themselves an opportunity to spend their time doing what they want to be doing. We see this done within universities where people create research groups and research teams, but for some people, they just want to leave the university to create a new venture. Less common reasons that we see are around necessity. So some people will start a company because they need to find a job. We don't see this much within the universities, although it can happen, particularly with postdoctoral researchers and the like, who might be coming near the end of their contract and see an opportunity to create a spin-out. The influence of friends or family is much less common in the tech space, although it is common in more traditional industries like farming or within retail. I really like this quote from Anita Roddick, who founded The Body Shop, and it talks about her motivations for starting a company. She said, "I've always found that my view of success has been iconoclastic. Success to me is not about money or status or fame. It's about finding a livelihood that brings me joy and self-sufficiency and a sense of contributing to the world. I really like this quote because it captures many of Anita's motivations in starting a company. It's not about the wealth, it's about her own personal agency. She can spend her time doing what it is that she wants. She can spend her time making sure that her efforts in the workplace are directed towards her own personal ambitions. So as an exercise, I would ask you to spend a bit of time thinking about why you would like to start a company. What is it that you're hoping to get out of it? What are your own personal motivations? How it would mesh with your own career and your own personal life? And really, do that bit of introspection to really have a good think about it before you proceed down the journey. It goes without saying that not everybody involved in a startup is going to be the CEO. So I just outlined in this slide some of the roles, the key roles that we see early days, but before a Spinout is created and afterwards. So before a Spinout is created, while you're still working within the confines of the university, the standard model is you have the PI with all their funding and reputation that they bring to the project. We have the postdoctoral researcher who probably does all the technical work and maybe a real driver behind the project. And a commercial lead will have to be brought in at some stage to drive market engagement. After the company spins out, some of these people may or may not leave the university or have roles within the spinout. Typically, we may see that the PI becomes an advisor, maybe a scientific advisor to the company. The postdoc may join the company full-time or initially for a period of time to become the CTO. And the commercial lead may become the CEO or take other commercial roles within the company. Now, this is just an example of how it's done. There's no set model. Investors will need to be confident that the technology can be transferred from the university into the new spin-out company. Typically, that's done when the postdoc or somebody on the technical team joins the spin-out. It doesn't have to work like that, but you do need to have a very good story and a clear picture of how that technology is going to be transferred into the new spin-out. As I said, this is just one model of how the transfer works. But the key thing when we look at all these different roles is that if you look at the left-hand side here, before the company spins out, somebody needs to drive this project. Somebody needs to act as a sort of internal CEO to the project. It could be the postdoc, could be the commercial lead, it could in theory be the PI, but that person has to take ownership of the project and essentially act as an internal entrepreneur to get this venture off the ground. They're the person who's going to have to deal with all the challenges and the adversities. Now, of course, there's many, many different supports, including in Hothouse, and our colleagues in Lincoln Synergy will help that team get to Spinout. But somebody in that team needs to take ownership and act as the CEO. Once the company is spun out and created, somebody else may take the role of the CEO. We may bring in an experienced CEO. Investors may ask to bring in an experienced CEO. So, it's worth thinking, even if you're not going to be the CEO of this spin-out company, are you going to be the person who can drive it to the stage of spin-out? Do you have that sort of entrepreneurial mindset or the mindset of a founder? I have some examples here of some well-known entrepreneurs. We have Orla Kiley, who's a designer, the Collison brothers, Steve Jobs, Michael O'Leary from Ryanair, and Gina Reinhardt, who's the most wealthy person in Australia, who made a fortune in the mining business. I put these diverse range of people up here to make it clear to you that there is not a single set of characteristics that captures an entrepreneur. I mean, Michael O'Leary is noted for his sort of brash attitude. Certainly couldn't be said of Orla Kiley. We have the precocious Collison brothers. But we do see one of the most common characteristics, one of the most important characteristics that we see across all these different entrepreneurs is that they're doers. They have an imperative towards action. When they see a problem, they immediately try to fix it. Now, that is not to say that everybody in the world needs to be like that. The guy who designs the airplane that you fly in, you don't want that person to have that attitude. You want them to be careful, considered, and to take their time. What are the characteristics of entrepreneurs? As I go down through this list, I want you to be really honest with yourself and think, does this describe me? That's not to say that you have to tick all these boxes, that you have to have all these exact characteristics or traits. But you will have to lean on these to a large degree as you try to start your company. So if these are not skills that you have today, there's something that you may have to develop. Crucially, and Anastasia will talk about this, is you need to be determined and have the ability to deal with adversity. Things are going to go badly wrong. Your postdoc is going to leave the project halfway through. You're going to have a CEO lined up who's going to change their mind at the last minute. Investment is going to be pulled. All sorts of issues are going to arise. Are you the sort of person that gets up and takes on those issues, or are they going to knock you back to the stage where you give up? Any startup is going to have to create out a team. Now, in the previous slides, I showed a few roles, key roles that you'll have in the startup, but there'll be many others. You may need to bring in researchers, technicians, board advisors, investors, and you'll also have to develop out customer relationships, supply chain relationships. Are you the sort of person that can do that? Can you act as that focal point for this team to motivate them, to inspire them, and to bring them together? Entrepreneurs always see opportunities, not just at the point where a company is created, but throughout. Markets change, opportunities arise, opportunities disappear. As an entrepreneur, you need to be reactive and always on the lookout for these opportunities and ready to react to them. And entrepreneurs are good at dealing with risk. Now, not to say that they just take wild, reckless risks, but they're happy with uncertainty. They're happy with deciding that they know enough about a situation where they can make a decision. They don't just sit and wait and suffer from paralysis by analysis. They need to learn on their feet. There's no textbook or course on being an entrepreneur, although of course through this series this is what we're trying to do to some extent. But there'll be a million skills that you will have to learn, and you have to be able to learn on your feet as you're going down this journey. And crucially, probably the most important trait that we see in entrepreneurs is that they're action-oriented, that they're doers. So think about this list. Think a little bit about where you fall on these different characteristics and if this is in fact something that's going to be suited to you. There are 4 key challenges that you're going to have to overcome, and this is where you will spend most of your time over the next year or two if you do decide to create a spin-out. The first is getting funding. So there'll be internal funding. You're going to have to go to investors. You're going to have to go to funders like Enterprise Ireland to get funding. And with that funding, hopefully you'll be able to build out a team. Some team members may be paid. Some team members may be sort of free advisors or mentors, whatever it may be. But you're going to spend an awful lot of time building out the team that's going to create that spin-out day one. You need to create IP. You're probably going to be the technical lead in this project. So you're going to have to do most of the technical work, be the inspiration behind the great inventions and the technologies, while you're also worrying about funding, building a team. And then finally, you have to develop out a business plan. There will be people to support you on this. Hothouse, The Link, Synergy. We can bring in a commercial lead. There are many other people that will help develop out this business plan. But again, you, as the CEO of this internal company, is going to have to take the lead in that and be able to understand it. So just to bring you back again to the 2 key questions that I want you to consider. First of all, do I really want to found a spin-out company? And secondly, is this something that I am suited to doing? I hope you enjoyed the talk today. Now I'm going to pass you over to my colleague Anastasia, who's going to talk a bit more about what I've talked about and her own personal journey in creating a startup company.
Hi everyone, my name's Anastasia, and I'm here to talk to you about a land. Most of its people call it startup land, and today I will be your guide. It's however up to you to decide what kind of land it is. Is it a land of promise? Is it a wonderland? Is it a no man's land? Bear in mind that there's no wrong or right answers here. I hope today, as your guide, to be able to give you a taste of what does it mean to be a startupper. Have you ever wondered what people stand to lose by staying good boys and girls and keeping their dreams to themselves? There's nothing new under the sun, you might say. You might also say that your dreams and ideas have been brought to life by other people, by other entrepreneurs. But what if your dreams and ambitions can be a healthy catalyst for change in all aspects of life? As long as there are people, there will be new ideas and new ways of expressing them. Even if you do land upon an idea that was used before, reaching it yourself is still important as implementing it in your own way. What I like about Startup Land is that there's room for everyone to win. I remember myself as a teenager. I used to have all these sorts of business ideas, but coming from a non-entrepreneurial family, my mother being a judge and my father a lawyer, I've never been encouraged to act upon my ideas. My motivation has always been to help others, but after graduating from the medical university, I understood that helping people can come in many shapes and forms. I abandoned my medical career and went all into corporate life. I then started experimenting with my own small business ideas. All until one day I discovered the idea. Your idea is your ticket to Startup Land. Mine is an AI tool that will help SMEs within the e-commerce sector to price and automatically reprice their items. You might wonder how exactly you get to that idea, and my advice as your guide today is to think of challenges or unpleasant situations as an asset that can be leveraged for your, and what's more important, for other people's benefit. It's guaranteed to make you look at your life in a whole new way. You also need grit. Grit is passion and perseverance for very long-term goals. Grit is having stamina. Grit is sticking to your future day in and day out, not just for the week, not just for the month, but for years, and working really, really hard to make that future a reality. Grit is living life like it's a marathon, not a sprint. So let's recap. How do you make it to Startup Land? Or in other words, how can one become an entrepreneur? Point 1. Have the courage to be different and to dream differently. 2. Find your idea. 3. Get your grit on. So you have those boxes ticked. Now what? From my experience, the next step would be getting as much support as you can. And the mission here is trifold. On one hand, you need to find like-minded people that will complement your skills and will add value to the team you are about to create. Startup Land can be a very lonely place. This is why you need to surround yourself with people who will work shoulder to shoulder with you, who will believe in your idea as much as you do, who will dream as big as you do, and who will connect with you in bringing your idea out in the world. It took me about 3 years to find my people. It's been trial and error. It's been frustrating, but I'm finally getting in to settle with a team that believes in me as much as I believe in them. Another form of support you will need as an entrepreneur is the support of the tribe. The tribe are all the people you will be networking with. It works both ways. You get introductions and you make introductions. This way you are surrounding yourself with a network of like-minded people. The people in your tribe are those who you will turn to for advice, for exchanging experiences, for bouncing off ideas, and even for raising funds. When you support the success of others, your success will be supported by someone else. Don't hesitate to share your knowledge, experience, or wisdom. Just because someone else might get the spotlight doesn't mean you lose yours. There is space for more than one person to shine. And here comes the third form of support, the financial one. There are so many options available for an entrepreneur that most of the times is just confusing. Deciding what support to take is hard, especially when they have the power to forever impact your life or career trajectory. In my journey, I was able to find answers within the tribe. I participated in the New Frontiers program, and it honestly felt like getting a master's in entrepreneurship. I learned how to do outreach, customer discovery, how to build a strategy and vision for my business. I've crafted my business plan, and it all set me on the right foot for what came next. And next came the commercial fund from Enterprise Ireland and the spin-in with TU Dublin. And believe me, for a girl that decided to dream big and embrace the opportunity of challenge, 350,000 is a pretty mind-blowing amount. So let's assume you have the support in place. What's next? Next, my friends, is the never-ending learning. You might or you might not be a subject matter expert in the field of your idea. Either way, you will be learning, and that will happen because our world has changed so quickly that our minds haven't caught up yet. So learning as an entrepreneur is a long game. I learned that the few first customers were the hardest to find, that positive word of mouth is the most powerful marketing tool, that working at nights and on the weekends is easier if you love the problem, that you don't have to know or do everything in the business, that velocity is key, that if you don't believe in yourself or your idea, no one else will, and that helping customers is priority number one. Assuming you've ticked all the boxes and here you are all pumped up in startup land. But hey, as your guide here, I must warn you about a few aspects you should know about. The first one is definitely fear. Overcoming fear is a big part of the business. Entrepreneurs have to face risks and adversity every day, but be able to push through it. Eventually, you will learn to overcome it by facing it instead of backing away. When you can face your fear, you will know you're a real entrepreneur. My main fear was that I'm an intruder. I'm not good enough. I'm not fit for the job. With time, I discovered that this is how most of the entrepreneurs feel. I'm embracing this fear every time I have to make a decision, and I comfort myself with the thought that every successful entrepreneur can do it. I can do it too. Temptation. You will be tempted to give up. There will always be a better paid job than yours. There will be financial and emotional stability elsewhere. You might easily give up on things you want to accomplish. As an entrepreneur, you will learn that you need to keep pushing no matter what. After all, the only thing holding you back is how many times you're willing to get up and try it all over again. Now, I learned that persistence is gold, and if you keep your eyes on the goal, resisting temptations is a doable job. Entrepreneurs have to be visionaries to be great. If you stick to your vision, nothing can be more inviting than your own success and the success of your business. Burnout. This is probably the one word no one wants to use while talking about themselves, ever. A study reported that by the Harvard Business Review found a link between passion and burnout. They defined passion concerning work in two distinct forms: harmonious passion and obsessive passion. Harmonious passion was measured as someone who's motivated by the job because it brings them satisfaction and is an important part of who they are. Conversely, obsessive passion was indicated as a job that is important to someone because of the status, money, or other rewards that it brings. The study concluded that those who were harmoniously passionate had significantly smaller changes of suffering from burnout. I've experienced burnout before, and I learned from that stage. I learned to take time to ask myself how I'm feeling and what's going on beneath the surface. I found out that in a go, go, go environment that I've meticulously created for myself, it's hard to say no. It's hard to take a step back and say, this is what I already have on my plate. So I do that often now. The emotional roller coaster. Well, imagine this. One day you wake up feeling extremely motivated, ready to take over the world, pitching your idea like there's no tomorrow, inspiring everyone around you, and the next day you can barely make yourself to get out in front of your computer. You think that you can barely make the ends meet this month. You think about those 50 euros that you have left in your bank account. You look at the calendar and it's only day 5 of the month. You feel like a failure. Want to know how many times that happened to me? Many. Both extremes of the emotional roller coaster are dangerous and destructive. I've learned not to fight any of these states and embrace them. Feeling the entrepreneur's high, I'll accept it. Feeling on the lower end, I'll take that too. Fighting these states leads to frustration and anger. Accepting them as part of the process empowers you and puts you in a position where you can, with time, control these feelings and leverage them to your benefit. Ladies and gentlemen, I will now talk about a topic that is not for the faint-hearted. But my best guess is that since you've made it this far through my talk, none of you is. Brace yourselves, we're talking about failure. According to the data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics in the US, approximately 20% of small businesses fail within the first year. By the end of the second year, 30% of the businesses will have failed. By the end of the 5th year, about half will have failed. And by the end of the decade, only 30% of businesses will remain. Here's my personal and slightly unpopular opinion. Failure is great for an entrepreneur. It might even be great for business. If you fail, you're like the vast majority of the world. What makes you different is how you choose to respond to that. Before I founded Smart Margins, I had started 6 businesses. Can you guess how many have failed? Exactly. All 6 of them. It took me 6 attempts to come up with a solid, viable, and scalable idea. Looking back, I'm grateful for all my failures. I don't fear failure. I understand that it's necessary to grow and learn from. Okay, so now you know how to get to Startup Land and what challenges you might come across. But do you speak the lingo? Here are a few basic terms to use and know as an entrepreneur. The first one would be Accelerator. An accelerator is a program to help newer startup businesses improve their growth. Accelerators are different from incubators in that they usually only work with startups which already have a business plan and basic strategy in place. Angel. An angel is a type of investor, often a wealthy individual who provides capital and financial support to a fledgling startup in return for an ownership percentage. Early evangelist. An early evangelist is a portmanteau neologism short for early and evangelist, meaning an early adopter of a product or service. Elevator pitch. An elevator pitch is a short, to-the-point message from one person to another to propose an idea, often business-related. A startup founder might deliver an elevator pitch to a potential investor seeking funding, for example. A minimum viable product. A minimum viable product, also known as an MVP, is a version of a product or service with just enough features and value to be released to the public. Pivot. A pivot is a shift in business focus or the business model based on innovation, customer feedback, or to seek better return on investment. Scale. To scale means to grow a company while maintaining or improving upon its performance, effectiveness, or efficiency as it grows. Unicorn. A unicorn is a startup company, usually privately held, which reaches a valuation of over 1 billion. Unique selling point, or a USP, is a thing that stands out about your product or service other than of another company. One-trepreneur. A one-trepreneur is someone aspiring to be an entrepreneur, perhaps with ideas or a general goal, but without having started yet. A portmanteau of want and entrepreneur. I now feel as your guide that my mission here is coming to an end. I hope I inspired at least some of you, and we already have a few one-trepreneurs among us. Before I wrap up, I wanted to say that not everyone must be an entrepreneur. We need teachers and doctors and researchers and drivers and so many other passionate people in the right places. My name's Anastasia, and I've been talking to you about a land. Most of its people call it Startup Land, and today I was your guide. It's, however, up to you to decide what kind of land it is. Is it a land of promise? Is it a wonderland? Is it a no man's land? Bear in mind that there is no wrong or right answer here. I hope today, as your guide, I've been able to give you a taste of what does it mean to be a startupper.
Thanks, Anastasia. And now I'll pass you over to Aisling Maher from Mooze Vegan, who's going to talk about her journey in founding her company.
Thank you to everybody at TU Dublin for having us here today. I'm also delighted to be able to join in this discussion. My company is Mooze Vegan. I'm co-founder and CEO at Mooze Vegan. My fellow co-founders are Stephen O'Hanlon and Faye McCarthy, and the three of us were fortunate to meet together when we were doing a master's at TU Dublin. The master's was in business and entrepreneurship, and the idea for the business that we later developed originally came from a project that we were working on together when we had to develop a business plan. So Mooze Vegan is, as the name suggests, a vegan company, and we are developing high-protein vegan alternatives to milk. So presently we have two products that we're bringing to market, a chocolate and a vanilla-flavoured milk alternative. We're also working on a strawberry flavour at the minute, and our products are designed to give our customers an alternative to milk, which is sustainable, which is environmentally friendly, but which is also nutritiously valuable, which has a similar nutrient profile to other dairy alternatives. So that idea was originally born, as I mentioned, when we were doing our master's. We did a lot of work during the course of our master's on the basic principles of the business, of developing the idea and the potential that it had. We entered the Student Entrepreneurship Awards in 2020, and we were shortlisted and made it to the final that year. So I guess that really spurred us on. It really encouraged us. It allowed us to see the potential that our idea had, and it really helped to develop our desire to bring that product to market. So at this point in our journey, we decided that we needed mentorship and guidance to really push our idea forward. So we approached TU Dublin Hothouse, who helped us in setting up as a student Spinout. So they helped us found our company, and they really gave us the mentorship that we needed at an early stage to understand exactly what was involved in turning our idea into a business. Not only did they help us with founding the company, but they also helped put the people around us to understand our best path to market and what we needed to do to get there. They helped us with finding a brand designer who could work for us on our packaging and on making our product convey the message that we wanted to bring across. They also helped us with many mentors in different areas and with legal advice and with giving us office space to develop our idea and to work together as a team. Through every stage of our journey, they've supported us in various ways. We were directed to go to SuperValue, who run a food academy program, and we worked for them for 6 months, and we really developed our product from a concept to an actual physical product at that point. So we've been really fortunate in the supports that we've got, both in funding and in mentorship, as I mentioned, and we wouldn't be where we are with our idea today without those supports. So myself and my other two co-founders, while studying at TU Dublin, were fortunate enough to be recipients of Elite Athlete Scholarship Awards. This was brilliant because it enabled us to meet together in a similar environment where we were all working towards a common idea. It also meant that we were bringing many of the same passions on board. So while we're all elite athletes, two of my co-founders are also vegan. So not only are we interested in nutrition and in optimal performance, but we're also interested in sustainability and making choices that not only benefit us, but also benefit the environment and the world around us as well. So as a student Spinout at TU Dublin Hothouse, we got many supports. Initially, these ranged from support in the Food Innovation Lab, where we worked on the formulation of our product and trying to obtain as high a protein content as we possibly could. This then developed into us being given incubation space at the Greenway Hub, which was extremely beneficial to us at that point because it allowed us to get a professional feel to our business and to have a location where we could work out of every day. This developed on then into the practicalities of the project as we received help in our brand development and our brand design, working with a professional brand designer to ensure our packaging was of the highest possible quality. So for Mooze Vegan at present, what's coming up next for us is the final stages of development of our product. So we now have a finalized product and we're just working to ensure that we can bring a long shelf life to that product to enable efficient distribution around the country. Once this has been achieved, we will initially enter the market through some niche vegan cafes around Dublin. Once we have ruled out any barriers that might be in place in our production and distribution chain, we will then be entering stores such as SuperValue. So we have been offered shelf space in SuperValue on a trial basis throughout a number of Dublin stores, and we look forward to being able to bring our product to store with them and to allow our consumers to access high-protein vegan drinks on the go. So in terms of supports that we've had outside of Dublin, we are producing from Ballybay Food Hub in Monaghan, and we've received supports from Monaghan's local enterprise office there in the form of priming grants, which has helped us in buying the equipment that we need and the appliances that we need to kit out a unit and run a kitchen up there. In addition to that, we're presently applying to a number of other funds, such as the Women in Entrepreneurship CSF Fund, which is run through Enterprise Ireland.
Thanks, Aisling, for coming along today to give us an overview of your journey with Mooze Vegan. And I'd like to open it up to any questions that people might have.